So hello and welcome. Today is the Poya day here in Sri Lanka. Hello. It's okay, go back to sleep. Good boy. Today is the Poya day in Sri Lanka, the equivalent of Uposita, the full moon of November, which is actually tomorrow, on Monday the 27th, as far as the actual full moon is concerned, and the Uposita being celebrated elsewhere. But I think in a lot of Buddhist countries, the governments try and organise special days, government holidays, as close as possible, and if so, on a weekend, if their working week is that way, as it is here. So, nothing much different for me today. Head shaving, robe washing day as usual, which I actually did yesterday, the day before, because of it being Poya today. I wasn't sure what might happen. Maybe I'd have to go somewhere. I did have an invitation to go to a Katina celebration at a local temple, but they didn't remind me, so I took that as a good opportunity to get on with my usual routine. I went on Pindapat as usual, because I don't like to miss that out. They are generally expecting me to go on my rounds in the morning, and it's enjoyable for me and hopefully them, so I keep that going each and every day. And then I'm able to just carry on with my usual routine. So, as this microphone decided it was going to work, I tried it on the off chance. I thought I would catch up on some of the questions and answers. So sorry, how is it connected to Buddhist or spiritual practices? As far as I know, Sri Lanka has incredible, rich and famous Buddhist places because of origin of Buddhist and history began. Is there any spiritual Buddhist side? Oh yes, of course. It's a very intensely ingrained in its culture and origins, and the oldest or longest lasting Buddhist culture in the world. You're referring to my little trip to Galle on the train. I was just experimental, really. The microphone wasn't working, so I couldn't make a video. I thought I would show some people the train journey, not by way of a travel vlog, anything like that, really. I'm not attempting to do such things. I'm not going to restaurants to picture food and show you the usual tourist places. So I just thought it's useful to see the environment around me, which I'm surrounded by, how nice and peaceful it is. But in answer to your question, everything is Dharma. It doesn't matter whether you're in New York or you're in Kandy, where the relic of the tooth of the Buddha is held in this country, a very auspicious place. It doesn't matter. The Dharma and the knowing of the Dharma is the most important thing. And I can practice wherever I go. I'm in a Buddhist country. It's the most supportive place for my practice. And as a result of causes and conditions, if you like, my karma, this is where I have ended up. And I'm very happy to have ended up here with this opportunity to practice. But I'm not going to be going on if I go to visit these places, which I will do, I won't be making videos of those. As someone who's replied to you, I saw the reply very well. You've put a link in, I think. I don't know what the link goes to. I don't usually follow all of these links, but there's plenty on YouTube already about those places. You can look at those. It's no problem. You can see what tourist sites they are. I'm calling them tourist sites because they are. It's Buddhist tourism, like the holy sites in India. It's also pilgrimage if you go to those places with that in mind. But practice in these places, is perhaps harder than some non-Buddhist places because they're very busy. They do have a very wonderful atmosphere, Like in any religion, the main centres of those religions, the holy sites, are conducive to the feeling of that, of building faith. This is the point of pilgrimage. But that's a whole another issue aside. I'm not particularly here on pilgrimage. I'm here just to live, to exist. And so far, I haven't travelled much. I did say I was coming on Charaka, and I put that video on there just to show that was perhaps where I would have headed to next if it wasn't raining, as it is, quite heavily, extremely heavily sometimes, every evening and some of the night. So at the moment it's best to stay put. And having stayed put and being well supported, and being that there are no other monks similar to myself in this area, that is, there are monks, temple monks living in temples, whom do what they do, but none are really going on Pindapart, not going to people's houses, and this kind of Dharma Dutta, we call it, this teaching or sharing the Dharma, not in a preaching way, but when requested to do so, with as many people as you come across, just by being there. If you're in a temple all of the time, people are having to come to you. And they tend to go on a certain day, like today. Everyone is going to their temples. But when you're out and about, people are seeing this representation of one of the four heavenly messengers. That is the samana, the monk, wandering on alms round, Pindapata, getting food each and every day to sustain himself for another 24 hours. And this is really the point of my being here. So very nice. You're saying that it would be better. Another comment about this is obviously because it was the last video I did, wasn't it? There's another comment about that. You're thinking it would be a very good idea to do more of those because more people would look at the channel. Well, absolutely, yes, of course they would, but that's not really the intention. The way, if you look at most Dharma channels, they don't have millions and millions of viewers or subscribers or whatever you measure these things by, I don't know, but like say travel or games or other areas of interest in people's lives, which are typically representative of, let's say, the kilesas that we're trying to eradicate in our lives as Buddhist practitioners. They're not they're not very clickable, these ideas. You see, newspapers wouldn't sell if they all said, headline, nothing's really happened today. Just be calm, relax. How many newspapers would that kind of headline sell? None. None whatsoever. And it's a bit like the Dharma. It doesn't really provoke a great deal of interest in this kind of medium. But what it does provoke when it gets interest is people who are genuinely interested in the subject matter, and it's not a form of entertainment. So it's acceptable to listen to Dharma talks and learn about the Dharma in order to further your practice and put it into practice what you hear. So I'm really just trying to share that experience. Now, if I can, when I do go on these trips, and it's not it doesn't interrupt my let's say, we have rules and ways we walk around in public and things we do and how we interact, and it's very important that we maintain that. This is the point of our presence in society as monks, rather than being hermits hidden away. If we're going around filming, taking pictures like this on mobile phones, it's not representative of what the Buddha or how the Buddha taught us as monks or bhikkhus and bhikkhunis to behave in any circumstances, not just in public, even alone. This is not what we do. When I finish making this video, I put my phones away and that's it, until I maybe have to send an email or something needs to be done. I don't take pictures or this kind of thing or have social media. So when it was okay to do so on that little journey, I just took a few shots out of the window discreetly, because the phone is in my pocket, and it was easy enough to do so. But it's not going to be something that I'll do very regularly. So just enjoy what comes up occasionally. I did last night. I was woken at 1 a.m. by the Katina preparations all going by, with fireworks like bombs going off outside my door, and the neighbour saying "Sadhu, sadhu, come and see," or something like this. And off I went to look up the road to see all the fire going, the throwing fire and music and drums and cultural things they do. I did video a little bit of that, maybe I'll share that with you. And also the bridge this morning with all its flags that I crossed on the way to Pindapat. Those little things I can share. But the other stuff we look elsewhere on YouTube or the internet for. Not on Dharma channels. In fact, I really do push the boundaries a little, even with this coming, some might say, because I'm coming to the beach and it all looks very nice and it all looks very lovely. The real reason I'm sitting here is because it's the quietest place, it's the coolest place, and there are no flies. In my room there's the fan. It's necessary because of all of the flies, but the flies don't seem to go away for the fan. It's extremely hot even with the fan, and there's traffic noise, and it's not the ideal place to make this. This is a fisherman's hut, and they said I was about to sit under my tree, and they said, no, you go, our house, it's all clean, fisherman's house, you go and sit there and do your talking. And they appreciate I'm doing as they call it here, a Dharma Desana. So it's only questions and answers, I know, but they say you go and use that place. So this is actually real life. This is how it happens. I'm here not for aesthetic reasons. This dog is not strategically placed. It was there, and I'm really trying not to disturb it, because this is its home. And the whole point of my presence is not to have a presence. It's not, oh sorry fellow, is not to be disturbing or interfering of anyone's usual way of life or flow. To go unnoticed unless asked to comment or do something, say something or be somewhere, then I will oblige if it's of use to others. Otherwise I'm trying to be invisible. So what was that? That was about videos, wasn't it? Yes, okay. Okay, I might have to just read this as it's written, and we'll work out what the meaning is. A little bit gone wrong on the translation. Why Singaporeans suffering from kidney disease and flu in China? How Sila, Samadhi, Panya and practice of Anapana help sort out these problems? Okay, well that makes perfect sense. There's just another question that's associated with that, which I'll read. Whether disease in Singapore, China, psychosomatic, whether ultra-processed food affects your body, Coca-Cola also, if practicing Eightfold Noble Path. Okay, that doesn't make quite so much sense, but it means about the same, I think. You're asking, why is there suffering? This is the Buddha's teaching, that there is suffering. And then it's been expanded, it's expanded upon, in that we can look to an end of suffering. But in order to really see an end of suffering in this lifetime, we have to understand the Four Noble Truths, that there is suffering, a cause of suffering, an end of suffering, and the path leading to the end of suffering, which is what you refer to, the Noble Eightfold Path. And Sila, Samadhi, Panya is a summary, which you refer to, of the Noble Eightfold Path of right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right meditation, right mindfulness, right meditation. You divide that into three categories: Sila, moral virtue; Samadhi, meditation; and Panya, wisdom. How can that help with all of this suffering? Well, it yourself practicing Sila, Samadhi, Panya is not going to stop the suffering of the world. Now, what we must always remind ourselves is there may be pandemics, there may be wars. It's not only just these illnesses that you refer to, all kinds of suffering going on in the world at any point in time now, and as there has been throughout history. Otherwise we wouldn't have these teachings of the Buddha. There would be no suffering. There has always been suffering, there always will be. There will always be wars, there will always be aging, sickness and death. There will always be the poor. There will always be evil, people doing nasty things. All we can do is practice ourselves to ultimately become unaffected by that, by reducing our own defilements, by really expanding on our practice of sila, samadhi, panya, so keeping the precepts, practicing meditation and developing wholesome mind states, reducing unwholesome mind states, and therefore being able to accept that what's going on around us is happening because that is the nature of existence. That is that all things are impermanence, but most importantly to understand that's anicca, is dukkha, that all things are unsatisfactory. Often as a result of that impermanence, but dukkha, there is suffering. We cannot get rid of that. So directly, the practice of sila, samadhi, panya, which is what you're asking, won't help all of the suffering that's going on in Singapore or China or wherever you refer to. But the Buddha taught us that there will always be suffering. But what we can do is alleviate that suffering in ourselves. Now, if by that means each and every person whom is able to do that was to do that, this would eradicate suffering. But of course not everybody has access to the Dharma or the inclination to do that. So the Buddha recognized there were a few people with little dust in their eyes, was how he put it. So therefore a few people who could understand that, be open to that idea of the Noble Eightfold Path, and by practicing it, realize freedom from suffering. Now, just becoming free from suffering yourself does very much alleviate suffering of others, certainly from your own perspective. But people you come across will see that not everything is about what's going on in these newspaper headlines, what's going on about in the media, what's going on around them. People will see by your example that illness is inevitable. We get old, we get sick, we die. And you set this example. So that's how the practice directly affects or helps alleviate these problems in the world. Can you give a talk? Yes. Can I give a talk on a whole subject? So I'm just going to skip through that one. Bhante, you are becoming a tourist now. Oh, again, this is relating to that visitor. Video. You're a tourist now. So we are all tourists. Yes, we're tourists in samsara. So yes, I am a visitor here, but I'm also a visitor in this life. And this life is samsara. So whether I'm here or anywhere in the world, it's temporary, it's impermanent. And therefore, if we had a visa, the kind of visa we need for life, I would have a tourist visa for life because it's not permanent. So one has to recognize that that is the case. It is in fact the case, though, however, that in here, monks aren't tourists. We have to come into the country on a travel arrangement, an electronic thing. Oh dear, I think I've broken my chair, my bench. Not wanting to disturb the dog. I shouldn't have moved, should I? But so I came in on a tourist visa, but that's being changed because monks can't really have tourist visas because they're not tourists. So it's taking it quite literally. If I get into my proper position, I can more or less sit anywhere. It was because I was trying to sit with one leg on the floor. If I'm in lotus position, I can balance on a fence post, really. So that's much more stable. I hope I'm still in the line of the camera. We'll get back to the thing. So not really. I'm not really a tourist in that sense, but we're all tourists in the other sense of being visitors to samsara. Hello Bhante, have you become enlightened? Well, what does enlightened mean? I'll just answer no if you are asking me if I'm an arahant or any of the stages of enlightenment or attainment we're not allowed to discuss with anybody other than our teachers or maybe fellow monks anyway. But anyone who's enlightened is never going to say that, because your personality will never become enlightened. This persona, this what you see or what you recognize in yourself is just the result of causes and conditions that have been put in place. And it isn't that is enlightened. It is in fact the letting go of all of that is enlightenment. And therefore there is nothing to be enlightened. So this word can be misconstrued, can be misunderstood, and it's not as simple as a yes or no answer, but very much the safest answer on that one is no. But it is more complex than just that. You will not ever find an enlightened. I've met people whom are certainly on varying stages of enlightenment in terms of the stages of enlightenment, Sotapanna, Satagami, Anagami, Arahant, and they're the sort of 4 recognized stages of enlightenment. Stream enterer, once returner, non-returner, and fully enlightened are the sort of English translations of those 4 stages. I've certainly met people like that, but they would never say so, and you only know so by living with them for quite some time, because you wouldn't look at them and say, oh, that's an enlightened person. They still have, even quite up until the last stages of enlightenment, some things about them that you might not associate with being enlightened. So for instance, some of the last things to go at Arahant stage is, and this was one question that I've skipped through because it requires more of a whole talk, but say anger, a little bit of anger can come up, not in the same sense as we think of it in terms of aggression or hatred or real ill will, but people can get a little frustrated, and there can be some forms of conceit, again not in the same form we understand conceit as, but in it's both positive and negative, that you are not as good as someone else or you are better than someone else. It can be seen both ways. These 2 fetters are some of the last to go, and a lot of the fetters just reduce through the middle 2 stages of enlightenment. So there are no real hard and fast black and white rules as to are you enlightened, are you not, yes or no, is this person, is that person not. Maybe perhaps long after someone's death it's possible to say, by the nature of one can review that person's life and how they went, as to whether or not they were enlightened or not. But in our sense, enlightenment is the meaning of which, our goal in fact as monks, is to become free from suffering in this lifetime. Now that is the full understanding and depth of the meaning of dukkha, eradicating that completely in this lifetime, being free from that suffering. That is attaining to nibbana, that is enlightenment. Not parinibbana as in physically no longer existing anymore, and the final nibbana, but a glimpse of that state. So this is the goal one would be aiming for by this practice. This is simply says, so you can believe in both. I think that refers to the Buddha-Jesus video, comparing the 2. Well, neither. This is the train I was on in the other video. Going back now to Bentota, that way is Gaul. So it was relevant because it features in every one of these videos because I'm sitting right by the railway line. So you can believe in both. Actually, well, no, they don't. The Buddha and the Jesus, the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, this Buddha, and Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus Christ, were both men and teachers. Now, whether they were enlightened prophets, messiahs, sons of gods, that's irrelevant. That is belief. That is something else. But they were men that did live. They are documented in history as having existed. So that doesn't require belief. So you can accept that both lived. In terms of belief, you can't really believe both of their teachings. Firstly, the teachings of Jesus require belief in a God, and him being the Son of God, and the resurrection of himself, Jesus Christ. That's belief. That is required. You have to have faith to believe that, and you have to take the evidence as you see it as good enough to prove and have that firm belief. Whereas the Buddha is saying, I don't want you to believe anything of anybody, even myself, just to experience it for yourself. Experience suffering, the cause of suffering, the end of suffering, by means of the path leading to the end of suffering, yourself. That's all the Buddha said, which also doesn't require belief. So the only belief element there in this whole subject is that of what the teacher, Jesus taught, whereas what the Buddha taught is not required. No belief is required, just experimentation. Just go and try it for yourself. So in answer to your question, I'm probably being pedantic, I think that's the word, but I don't mean to be. You can accept that both existed, yes, but you cannot obviously fully believe in the teachings of Jesus and then be practicing what the Buddha is teaching, because it's contrary. It's not, although it's not denying God's heavenly realms and all of these other things, it's saying we do not rely on those for our salvation, whereas Jesus is saying you must rely 100% in the belief of his resurrection for our sins and God for salvation. The Buddha is not saying that. So the teachings are contradictory, whereas the understanding that the two men existed is just evident, self-evident, it's there. Something about, imagine, we're well connected nowadays and we can't believe a single word that is said. If they were born 500 years ago, I think you mean 2,500 years ago, and the Silk Road was the means of communication, then nothing can be believed. Again, I think that's referring to that video, but what I mentioned, I think at some point in the past, was that before all of the internet and this and that and communication worldwide, messages got from one continent to another via means of travel, ships around the world, trading ships, merchandising. So they'd send messages along with merchants, shipping merchants. And the Silk Road ran from Jesus' land to via the north of India, so almost the Buddha's land, to China. And it's been said that this is that connection, physical road, but communication-wise. But they were, of course, 500 years apart in terms of time. But it doesn't mean that Jesus later wasn't able to travel that road, and often people have said that that was the case, to experience other cultures and come to India and learn things like that. And some people say he went to France, he went to England. You know, it was a lot harder to get to those places than from where he was to where the Buddha was, where he would have been able to be exposed to what the Buddha had, his legacy, the Buddha's teachings. So that's all I was saying. But in this modern day and age where communication is so vast, I think it's less accurate. People were perhaps less inclined to spread useless information and gossip when sending a message with a merchant on a camel over a period of several months, walking from one side of Asia to the other, or to Europe even. They tend to send more or less just facts. There's not a lot of point, unless it was a really important deception that they were involved in to defeat an enemy or something. So, but it was a communication route, but perhaps less abused than modern communication is, because modern communication is rather less, it's more easy to just keep changing messages. Whereas once you've sent a message on the Silk Road there, you want it to be accurate. So I kind of see what you're saying, but it's not directly comparable. Wasn't really the point of the context of what I was talking about anyway. Okay, this, I'm not sure how long I've spoken for now. That one I might leave. Okay, this is a nice easy one. I'm going to just answer a couple of nice short questions now, because I think I'm running out of time. Not I'm running out of time. I'm concerned the phone will get too hot and it will then switch off and I'll be talking to nobody at all. I've been practicing Buddhist, living by 8 precepts. How do I go about living in a Buddhist monastery in Thailand? Well, you can, I don't mean to sound facetious, get on a plane, go to Thailand and walk into one. But if you want to be a bit more planned about it, Google, go onto the internet, and it depends rather where you're coming from. I mean, what culture you're coming from. When I say that, I mean if you're coming from a country where you've got monasteries accessible to you, then go to those first and ask them if they've got contacts in Thailand, if you want to go to Thailand. There are so many monasteries in Thailand, and also why do you want to go to Thailand particularly? I can understand why, but as it's not the only place. So, but if you've got the means to do so, you can just go there, and you need to know what it is you want, what you're looking for. Do you want to ordain permanently? Are you looking for some temporary pavaja, temporary ordination? It depends what you want. So let me just check I got your question right. You're living by the 8 precepts. Yes, I can't work out either where you're from. So if I knew you were from England, I'd say go to one of the English Thai Forest Monasteries there, visit them, ask there, and they'll put you in touch with the right people. Because you see the more stricter monasteries in the Thai forest tradition won't allow you just to walk in and stay. They don't even necessarily have lay people staying. But if you've had some experience living in a monastery before, say in your own country for a few days or a bit longer probably, then it can be arranged. Otherwise you're going to be going to these more open centres, which I think designed more for people just going for the monk experience. And they take temporary ordination for a set amount of time just to live as a monk. It's a good thing. It's like going on a meditation retreat, but it isn't for a permanent change of life. This is not renunciation, because you're not giving up everything. But I think you're thinking more of something along the lines of renunciation and a lifetime commitment to this, in which case you need to do a bit more research. So firstly, just specifically, I would say Google Wat Pa Nana Chat, because that's the international Thai Forest Buddhist Monastery in Thailand, where you can begin, and then that will lead to any amount of other options for you. So Wat, W-A-T, Pa, P-A, Nana Chat, as it sounds, N-A-N-A-C-H-A-T. This is the English-speaking international monastery. You've asked your question in English, although I don't know whether it gets translated, so I'm sure you would find that useful. Okay, I think then that should be enough. And this wonderful friend here I have, this dog, I hopefully haven't disturbed too much. He's enjoying this nice place to lay, and I think I'll sit here and continue. I'll sit where you're sitting because that's a more comfortable place to sit and meditate where I've sat before for a few hours. So that I will do now. I hope there's something useful there, and if there are some things that you can use, please use them. Otherwise, just let them go and share anything you might think useful with others. If there are some gaps in not so many videos in the next few days, then there is a new microphone on order, but it will take a while to get here. This is an island. It's not like living in a continent. When you're in an island, things take a little bit longer to get there. There's one being ordered online, I understand, but it was going to be sometime in December that it will arrive. In the meantime, when this one works, I just try it, and if the light comes on, I know it's okay. I hope so anyway, otherwise I've been talking to no one. But most of the time when I plug it in, the light's not coming on. So I have worked out some other ways I can do it. I'll just do my best. But I'm a monk, a simple monk living a simple life. So we'll see what we can do to get through the rest of these questions and answers. And I've got some talks to, a couple of subjects to talk about, Dharma talks if you like, in the next few days also. So hopefully this microphone will be up to that, so that I can deliver those in due course. They're at your suggestion, so it's and something else that's been coming up in my own reflections that I wanted to share with you. So that's all coming soon. More of that, more Dharma, less about food, perhaps less travel, less of the a little bit of the monk's life. That's what you're seeing around me, really, and I'm sharing with you this experience this way. There's nothing, well, I think you know, there's nothing artificial about this. It's the way it is. It's just that, flies and all. And this, I hope, is useful that I share with you. So thank you for watching. Until next time, be happy and stay well. Oh yes, and one important thing, the microphone problem has led to it being impractical to continue with the live puja in the morning, because I spend, by the time I fiddle around getting the microphone to work, it's time to go on Pindapart, so it's no time. So I have put that on hold for the time being, but it will resume as soon as it can, and it will also, when the weather becomes more stable, resume from perhaps on the beach, where it's going to have a little bit more of a conducive environment for the puja, sound-wise. So it will be quite nice to do that. Also, when there is the microphone arrives and the weather becomes more conducive to it, in the evenings we might have some guided meditation here also, in a location like this down here on the beach. So that's all to come very soon, and I hopefully that will be useful and all very Dharma appropriate. Thank you. Anumodana. Sukhi Hotu. Don't want to disturb this fellow. It's okay. It's okay. Good boy. Oh, good boy. Oh, you're a nice fellow, aren't you? You look like a... I'm not very good to dogs' names. Oh, you've got some little bites and bumps and things. It's the sand. Oh, very happy. Okay. Sabe sata suki hotu. Okay. I have to go now. Well, just over there.